Mufasa's death, The Lion King, 1994. Mufasa's death occurs during a wildebeest stampede orchestrated by his brother Scar. After luring Simba into a gorge under the pretense of a surprise, Scar signals the hyenas to initiate a stampede. Simba is trapped in the path of hundreds of charging wildebeest. Mufasa rushes in to save him, throwing his son to safety before being swept away himself. He eventually climbs up the gorge wall, grasping for a ledge, only to find Scar waiting above. Mufasa pleads for help. Scar grips his paws, leans in close, and utters, "Long live the king." He throws Mufasa back into the stampede, where the king falls to his death. What makes this death controversial is its brutality and betrayal. It is the only moment in Disney's Renaissance era where fratricide is shown explicitly. There's no ambiguity. Scar not only murders his brother, but then emotionally manipulates Simba into believing he caused it, setting off the film's central arc of guilt and identity crisis. The moment is prolonged with full visual impact, slow motion, close-ups, and a devastated Simba discovering his father's lifeless body. There's no magical reversal or softened resolution. Mufasa is truly gone, and the emotional consequences ripple throughout the film. Clayton, Tarzan, Nitten Nitini. Clayton's death occurs during the final battle between the hunter and Tarzan in the jungle. After kidnapping Professor Porter and Jane to lure Tarzan into a trap, Clayton pursues him through the treetops in a chaotic, rain-soaked chase. The scene becomes increasingly violent as Clayton slashes at the vines around him with a machete, determined to kill Tarzan and assert dominance over the jungle. During the struggle, Tarzan uses the jungle's natural environment against him. He traps Clayton in a snarl of vines, wrapping them around the man's limbs as he climbs higher in the trees. Clayton, blinded by rage, continues to swing his machete wildly. In doing so, he fails to notice one of the vines looped around his neck. As he cuts through the last vine holding his body weight, he inadvertently hangs himself. The fall is sudden and silent. There is no impact shot, only a flash of lightning revealing his hanging silhouette in the background. This death is controversial not only because of its implied violence, but also due to the method of death, hanging. It's rare for a Disney film to depict such a grim and realistic end, especially one rooted in consequences of the villain's own choices. Clayton isn't pushed. He isn't thrown. He causes his own demise through recklessness and lack of awareness. The film handles it with restraint, cutting away at the final moment, but the imagery is unmistakable. It's one of the darkest villain deaths in the Disney canon, underscored by its silent visual finality. Judge Claude Froolo, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1996. Judge Claude Frollo's death occurs at the climax of the film, atop the towers of Notre Dame Cathedral during a confrontation with Quasimodo and Esmeralda. Froolo, having pursued what he sees as divine justice, has devolved into full religious fanaticism. After setting fire to Paris and attempting to execute Esmeralda, he climbs the cathedral in pursuit of her and Quasimodo, driven not by duty but by obsession, hatred, and a belief in his own moral superiority. Cornering them on a high ledge, Froolo draws his sword and declares that he will destroy them both in the name of righteousness. At this point, the cathedral itself becomes symbolic. As he raises his sword standing beside a stone gargoyle, he utters, "And he shall smite the wicked and plunge them into the fiery pit." Immediately after, the stone gargoyle cracks beneath his feet. The ledge gives way, and Froolo plunges from the cathedral's height. The fall is visually dramatic. He reaches for the air, his cloak billowing as he disappears into the flames below. The moment is accentuated by the symbolism of divine retribution. He falls into the very fire he used to threaten others, beneath the very cathedral he claimed to protect. Frollo's death is controversial because of the complexity of his character and the mature themes it embodies. He isn't a magical villain. He is a man whose evil stems from self-righteousness, repression, and power. His death, while theatrical, is portrayed as divine punishment. The camera lingers just long enough to make the fall feel personal, not accidental. It's one of the rare times Disney addresses the abuse of religious authority, moral hypocrisy, and internal corruption, all culminating in a death that feels earned but still deeply unsettling. Ursula, The Little Mermaid, 1989. Ursula's death takes place during the final battle at sea, after she gains possession of King Triton's trident and transforms into a colossal sea witch. With godlike power over the ocean, she stirs a massive storm, raises whirlpools, and conjures lightning while attempting to destroy Ariel and Prince Eric. Her size and control over the elements make her virtually unstoppable, turning the ocean into a battlefield. As Ursula prepares to strike Ariel with the trident, Eric seizes control of a wrecked ship nearby. Battling high waves and chaotic weather, he steers the ship toward Ursula, using the sharp, broken bowsprit as a weapon. Ursula is too focused on Ariel to notice. Eric drives the ship's prow directly into Ursula's midsection. Impaled, she lets out a scream that echoes across the sea as lightning crashes around her. The ocean swells, then collapses, pulling her enormous body down beneath the waves. This death is controversial because of its intensity and scale. It's one of the most violent villain deaths in Disney animation. Ursula is physically stabbed with a ship's mast, her body exploding into seawater and tentacles. It's a shocking moment in a film otherwise built around music, romance, and light fantasy. There's no ambiguity about her fate. She is visibly destroyed on screen, in a sequence that feels more like mythological vengeance than fairy tale resolution. Additionally, Ursula's character is rooted in charisma, cunning, and manipulation, not brute force. Her transformation into a kaiju-like sea monster and her eventual death by impalement reflect a dramatic shift from psychological threat to physical destruction. The scale and savagery of her end remains one of the most intense and debated climaxes in any Disney animated film. Scar, The Lion King, 1994. Scar's death is built on a layered foundation of deceit, manipulation, and the long-awaited unraveling of power. After ruling Pride Rock under tyranny and deception, his downfall begins the moment Simba returns to confront him. Scar attempts to maintain control by sowing division. He accuses Simba of causing Mufasa's death, a lie he planted years ago. But when pushed to the edge, he confesses the truth. This admission, made in front of the lionesses and the hyenas, marks the beginning of his collapse. A physical battle follows, symbolic of the ideological conflict between Scar and Simba. Scar fights with underhanded tactics, throwing embers, slashing with claws, while Simba fights with honor and resolve. The duel ends when Simba pins Scar and gives him a chance to flee. This moment reinforces Simba's growth. He shows mercy, even to the one who destroyed his family. However, Scar immediately betrays that mercy. He attacks again, proving that even in defeat, he remains treacherous. Simba retaliates by throwing Scar from the cliff. The fall mirrors the one Scar orchestrated for Mufasa, emphasizing narrative symmetry and justice. Scar survives the fall but is now cornered at the base of Pride Rock, face to face with the hyenas. Earlier in the film, Scar had mocked them behind their backs. In his final act of desperation, he blames them for everything, but they've heard every word. The hyenas close in. The camera pans away as shadows engulf Scar, leaving his exact fate unseen but heavily implied. The scene is punctuated by flames and roaring, signaling the end. This death is controversial for its layered meaning. Scar is not dispatched by magic or accident. He is undone by his own ego, his own allies, and the weight of his crimes. His end is not a single act. It is the natural consequence of years of manipulation and betrayal. By showing how power gained through lies eventually implodes, the film delivers one of Disney's most morally and narratively complete villain deaths. Mother Gothel, Tangled, 2010. Mother Gothel's death is the culmination of a life built entirely on manipulation, deception, and control. For decades, she has remained young by exploiting the magic flower's power, which she transfers to Rapunzel's hair. Rather than raise Rapunzel out of love, Gothel kidnaps her as an infant and raises her in isolation, crafting a false identity as a caring mother. Her power is psychological. She controls Rapunzel not with physical chains, but with guilt, fear, and the illusion of protection. When Rapunzel discovers her true heritage and realizes that Gothel has lied to her entire life, their relationship fractures. The climax begins with Gothel attempting to flee with Rapunzel one last time, desperate to retain her source of youth. Flynn Rider intervenes and, in a final act of sacrifice, cuts Rapunzel's hair, breaking its magical power permanently. With the hair severed, the enchantment that kept Gothel young disintegrates instantly. Gothel's body begins to age at an accelerated rate. Her skin wrinkles, her posture crumples, and she stumbles in shock. Her reflection in a mirror confirms the truth. She is ancient. She recoils, covers her face, and blindly backs away. As she stumbles, she trips over Rapunzel's hair remnants and falls out the tower window. By the time she hits the ground, her body is reduced to a dust-like cloak, scattering into the wind. This death is controversial not for its violence, but for its psychological weight. Gothel is not killed by another character, she is destroyed by the removal of her power source. Her downfall is a direct result of her own dependency and deception. There is no revenge, no battle, just the natural collapse of a life built on stolen magic and control. The scene avoids graphic imagery, but the implications are grim. It's a rare Disney death that embodies internal decay rather than external force. Gothel's collapse is a visual metaphor for what she's always been: hollow, aged, and unsustainable. Once the illusion is gone, so is she. Gaston, Beauty and the Beast, 1991. Gaston's death is the result of an escalating pattern of narcissism and unchecked entitlement. From the beginning of the film, Gaston is presented not as a traditional villain with magical powers, but as a celebrated member of the community. He's admired for his physical strength and charm, but beneath that is an obsessive need to possess Belle, to be idolized, and to dominate anyone who stands in his way. When Belle rejects his advances, Gaston doesn't accept it as a personal boundary. He sees it as an insult. This rejection sets off a chain of decisions motivated by wounded pride. He manipulates the townspeople, stokes fear about the beast, and incites a violent mob to attack the castle. His goal isn't protection or heroism, it's destruction of the rival he believes has taken what's rightfully his. The final confrontation at the castle reflects this dissent. Gaston ambushes the beast from behind, using arrows and physical aggression to wear him down. At first, the beast is too emotionally broken to fight back. But when Belle appears, the dynamic shifts. The beast gains the strength to defend himself and ultimately disarms Gaston, holding him over the edge of the tower. At this moment, the beast demonstrates moral growth by sparing his attacker, an act of compassion and control. But Gaston cannot comprehend mercy. As the beast turns away to reunite with Belle, Gaston takes one last opportunity to strike, stabbing the beast in the back. This act of betrayal is what ultimately leads to his demise. The force of the attack throws him off balance and the crumbling ledge beneath him collapses. He falls into the ravine below and the camera pans away just before impact. The controversial nature of Gaston's death lies in its realism. There is no magic, no villainous transformation, just a man undone by his own pride and inability to accept defeat. His death serves as a cautionary tale about the destructive nature of unchecked ego. It also subverts the idea of what makes someone a villain. Gaston isn't a sorcerer or a monster. He's just a man consumed by the belief that he is owed everything, and it's that belief that kills him. King Kashikim Nedk, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, 2001. King Kashikim Nedk's death occurs during a moment of reckoning in Atlantis. The Lost Empire. As the ruler of the Lost City, he holds the burden of a past mistake, using the heart of Atlantis in an ancient war, which caused massive destruction and cost him his wife. He's since kept the crystal's power hidden, believing isolation is the only way to protect his people. When Rourke and the mercenaries arrive demanding access to the heart, the king refuses. He warns them that disturbing the crystal will awaken a destructive force, but they ignore him. In retaliation, Rourke uses brute force. He violently slams the elderly king against a stone column, injuring him fatally. Though the scene is not graphically violent, the impact is direct and shocking, especially as it happens to a peaceful, non-combative character. Mortally wounded, Nedk spends his final moments revealing the truth to his daughter, Kida. He explains the nature of the crystal and entrusts her with the future of Atlantis. His death is quiet, without spectacle, but it carries enormous weight. It marks the end of the old leadership and the beginning of Kida's rise as queen. This death is controversial because of how senseless and brutal it is. The king poses no threat, yet he's killed for power. It's also notable as one of the few times Disney shows an elderly, wise figure being murdered on screen for standing up to imperialism, turning what could have been a background casualty into a narrative pivot point. The Hunter's Fall, The Fox and the Hound, 1981. The hunter, Amos Slade, represents the harsh reality of survival and ownership in The Fox and the Hound. He's not a traditional Disney villain. He doesn't have magical powers or grand ambitions. His actions are driven by instinct, habit, and the belief that animals like Todd are pests or threats. From the start, he views Todd, the fox, as a target to be eliminated, especially after Todd unintentionally causes the injury of his hunting dog, Chief. The climactic moment unfolds when Slade takes Copper into the forest, armed and prepared to kill Todd. This pursuit is not just about hunting, it's personal vengeance. But his plan backfires when they disturb a massive grizzly bear. The bear charges, and Slade, for all his confidence and experience, is instantly outmatched. His gun is swatted away. He falls backward and is pinned beneath the bear, entirely vulnerable. This is the turning point. For the first time in the film, the power dynamic shifts. Slade, once the hunter, becomes the hunted. He is helpless until Copper intervenes, trying to defend him. But it's Todd, Slade's intended prey, who ultimately saves his life. Todd distracts the bear, leading it away in a desperate chase that ends with both plunging over a waterfall. Although Slade survives, he is left physically injured and morally confronted. The film never shows his death, but the emotional weight of that moment, the terror, the helplessness, and being saved by the very creature he wanted to kill, serves as a symbolic death of his worldview. Afterward, he lowers his gun and walks away, never speaking. He doesn't apologize, but the silence marks the end of his vendetta. The controversy around this scene lies in its raw, nearly fatal violence and the heavy moral implications. In a film about friendship and the natural divide between enemies, Slade's near-death experience doesn't end in revenge. It ends in humility. It's a rare moment in Disney storytelling where a villain is emotionally defeated rather than physically killed, forcing the audience to reflect on cycles of conflict, empathy, and change. Moru, Brave, 2012. Moru's death concludes a tragic story of pride and punishment. Once a prince, he defied his family and used magic to gain unmatched strength, transforming into a bear. The spell corrupted him completely. His mind, body, and soul lost to rage. For centuries, he wandered the highlands, driven only by violence, feared as a legend. In the film's climax, Moru attacks Merida and her mother, who's also in bear form. He nearly kills Merida, but Queen Eleanor, still a bear, saves her by toppling a large standing stone onto Moru. The impact crushes him instantly. What follows is unique for a Disney villain. From the wreckage, Moru's human spirit rises, no longer monstrous, but peaceful. He locks eyes with Merida, then vanishes. His death isn't just defeat, it's redemption. The curse is broken, not by vengeance, but by family unity. This ending is controversial because it paints the villain not as evil, but as lost. Moru's fate warns of what happens when power is chosen over connection, and shows that even monsters can be mourned. Thanks for watching. If you want more in-depth Disney breakdowns like this, make sure to like, comment your favorite twist, and subscribe for more.